the years just before the American Revolution, I sent my son, John Lawrence, from our home in South Carolina to London. At 18, he had determined to study common law in England. Their system of justice also prevailed in the colonies. These were days of uneasy relationships between England and the colonies. Americans were accustomed to governing themselves. We'd been doing it for 150 years. But England was meddling more and more in our domestic life. John was aware of this, and he wanted to observe at first hand the attitudes of the British toward an American colonist.
Dear Father, I must admit I feel a bit strange in my new surroundings. Oh, don't misunderstand. I'm proud that I'm from the colonies, all right. Nor have I forgotten my solemn promise to you. I shall complete my studies in London. I have already made a friend. His name is Michaels. He is to share my lodgings, and he is studying law, too. It will help us both to have each other to argue with. Michaels has introduced me to some of his friends. One in particular is intelligent and most amusing. Her name is Patty. I'm beginning to like it here.
Michaels, you mustn't sit so still. I mistook you for a hatbag.
I have not yet mastered your American habit of studying at the trot.
Ah, your observation fails you, my friend. I trot. At the trot, I study at my desk.
Lawrence, what do you make of this? A great number of Boston persons, many of them disguised as Indians, boarded 2 British merchant vessels lying at anchor in the harbor of Boston, broke open the hatches and hoisted out 342 chests of tea upon the decks. With clubs, hatchets, and axes, they broke open the chests and emptied and threw the tea into the water. A bloody lot of radicals you have over there, Lawrence. They certainly are doing everything they can to provoke us, aren't they?
No, it's just their subtle way of suggesting that we don't like your taxes.
Americans no like taxes. Dump tea in big sea water.
All right, John, that's enough. We are supposed to be students of the law. Let me try to explain to you, without making you laugh, why that is a fair tax. During the late war, we sent our troops to defend the colonies against the French and Indians. Now, the troops have stayed on, some at least, to secure the colonies. The Navy's job is to protect colonial vessels in the high seas. Are we together so far?
Oh, I'm listening, yes.
Thank you. My eloquence will do the rest. Now, in exchange for this protection, the government can expect certain rights, one of which is to help levy taxes, to pay for all this. It's a simple quid pro quo. How can you object? It's the price you pay for being a British subject.
Oh, a British subject. Don't appreciate that term somehow, Michaels. Why don't we just change the subject, shall we? What a drafty gallery. What a chilling country, for that matter. Does summer ever come to England, Michaels?
Last year it came on a Thursday.
Now that's enough. Both of you behave. At least as long as we're here. That's what I imagine America to be like. Green and rolling and endless. Is it like that, John?
Some of it, yes. South Carolina looks exactly like that.
Must be very beautiful.
Yes, it is. And deliciously warm.
Do you miss it, John?
Sometimes a lot, yes. Sometimes very little. London seems to have a charm of its own.
It looks very peaceful.
Oh, it is, yes.
Far too peaceful to produce the men who dumped tea into Boston Harbor.
Patty, he said it. I didn't say it, Patty.
Oh, you're absolutely hopeless, both of you. I give up. You're not fit to be in polite society.
Patty, are you suggesting that we would be more at home in the company of rogues, scoundrels, and drunkards?
Cheer up, old boy. I'll take care of your London girls for you. That'll be my contribution to king and country.
Thank you, my friend. Just what I needed to hear. You have now spoiled my travels completely.
Gentlemen! Gentlemen, fill your tankards. I give you the king.
The king.
The king.
The king.
The king.
Am I supposed to respond?
Just stand up.
I give you His Majesty's forces beyond the sea. May they always prevail.
Here, here.
Never mind, John.
To our colonial offspring. Quick to accept charity, slow to accept authority, nimble in speech, reluctant with the sword. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. To America, gentlemen.
America.
America.
John Lawrence, Esquire.
A colonist?
At your service, sir. I am a South Carolinian and an American.
To be sure. I have heard of you. A student of law. An advocate of insurrection, if I understand correctly.
On the contrary, sir, I would advocate that your parliament exercise justice towards my people. That would render disobedience unnecessary.
A disobedience is never necessary, my friend. As for justice, America gets a good bit more of it than she deserves. Judging by her attitude towards the British blood we have spilt in your defense.
I have been taught, sir, that justice is a right every man is born with. It is not something given and withheld according to the whims of Parliament.
Sir, Parliament represents the rights and interests of the entire British Empire. It does not act whimsically.
Now, that is very curious, sir, because how could it possibly represent more than 2.5 million Americans when not a single one sits in either House of Parliament?
Oh, come now, sir, that is naive. Surely you realize that every member of Parliament represents every citizen of the Empire.
Whether they elect him or not.
Yes.
Yes, whether they can replace him or not, whether they can direct his vote, order him to plead their grievances.
The child need not constantly tug at his father's coattails for the father to be aware of him.
We are not children, sir.
Then there is even less excuse for your childish behavior.
Now, I came here to learn the law because our mother England has taught us much about justice. Now, in that metaphor, sir, we are her children, but we are not infants. Indeed, in our country, men live or die by self-reliance and courage. In our far-off mountains, a man is apt to meet a bobcat. Now, have you ever encountered a bobcat, sir? So do not be too severe on your colonial cousin, sir. Lead us not into temptation.
Speaking as the conscience of liberty, Master Colonist, how many slaves are there in South Carolina?